Do not mistake the Screen Act as the same thing as the Kids Online Safety Act that a lot of content creators are currently covering, like Moist Critical, Asmongold, and myself included. There is another bill that is within the United States Congress called the Screen Act that effectively does the exact same thing. However, this one has went under the radar. It's apparently been in our government since the beginning of this year, but it pretty much more or less is doing the exact same thing that the Kids Online Safety Act is trying to do. More or less, to summarize, require identification pretty much just to access the internet, and in turn also be able to monitor and know what you're doing at any given time. And looking at what's just happened in the last week and a half with like the UK with its Online Safety Act, it's very clear needing identification to access the internet is not necessarily for protecting children. It's a grab for power and control, and to watch the citizens and make sure and monitor them that they're not doing something that the government doesn't want you to do. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First off, we need to talk about the Screen Act and how this was even discovered in the first place. So, thanks to the overall awareness and a lot of people now talking about the censorship in just this last week alone, and a lot of big content creators finally diving into the topic, a lot of people became aware of the Kids Online Safety Act and how obviously this is going to be used in very evil ways to control the public, control the narrative, to censor people, to censor fiction, to censor entertainment, games, etc. Obviously, a lot of people are now starting to talk about this. However, thanks to the overall publicity of this, it gave rise to people finding out about the Screen Act, which, as you can see by the date when this was introduced, it was introduced back in February of 2025, so much earlier than the Kids Online Safety Act, which was introduced only a few months ago. However, as I said, the Screen Act effectively does the exact same thing. However, it doesn't really try to hide its nefarious purposes. Like, I'm going to read this first line here, and it really just goes to show that the government's not even trying to hide the fact of what it's doing, because obviously bills like this go under the radar. Not a lot of people really go out of their way to find and look up bills and what the government's going to be voting on, or what's potentially going to get passed, what the Senate or the House is going to be voting on. Not a lot of people really look up this type of stuff. They don't try to figure out what is going on. But here's what the first line says: to require certain interactive computer services to adopt and operate technology verification measures to ensure that users of the platform are not minors, and for other purposes. That line of dialogue alone is just ominous. You're not going to tell me you're going to read that, and you're not telling me that the vagueness of that is not ominous. Like, that's just not even getting into reading the bill. And I want to point this out. I really dislike the optics that these activist groups, these payment processors, and our governments are now doing to be able to introduce this level of censorship. They're using the term protect the kids, think of the children, to be able to pass things that are just stripping freedoms and rights away from people, to be able to monitor you and know what you're doing at any given time, to be able to censor you for, they can just, push a certain narrative the way they want. It's legitimately horrifying. It's actually crazy. And so many people are legitimately, because of the optics of these type of bills or these activist groups or what payment processors are saying, they're going to straight up side with this bill and say, like, why wouldn't you want to protect kids? Why wouldn't you want to, keep them from seeing bad things? And here's the thing, okay? It's up to the parents to do this. It should not be the government, like the big government, to come in and do this. Parents should do their jobs. They should stop being lazy and do what they're supposed to do by taking care of their kids and keeping them out of things they shouldn't be getting into. But instead, we have the government wanting to overreach all in the name of protecting kids, but in reality, it's more or less a power grab and also a fight for control to do whatever they want. I mean, we already have many examples of this going on within the UK with its Online Safety Act. I mean, you know what? I'm going to pull up a clip. I was going to save this, but I think that this clip is very important. I'm going to pull it up. Here it is right here. So this right here is a politician within the UK straight up admitting to the bill that got passed and came law, for instance, like, in the UK, the Online Safety Act, and goes full mask off, saying it was never about protecting kids. It was about censoring freedom of speech, censoring adults' freedom of speech, and also to be able to monitor them and basically have a task force to, potentially throw them in prison if they say the wrong thing online. For instance, I'm going to play the clip. I'll let it play for itself. I'll be quiet.
Online safety bill. If it's just about children, is it just about children, or does it focus on adults?
That should be an elite squad?
Barry, does it just focus?
Protects 13-year-old girls?
I'm sorry, the elite squad is not about children, actually. Shall I read you the thing? An elite squad of police officers is to monitor social media for anti-migrant sentiment. I don't think 13-year-olds are engaging that. So is it also to monitor adults? Simple question, yes or no?
Yes, of course it will.
Okay,
there we go. Look, sorry.
You hear that? I'll replay that. Let's replay that.
Also to monitor adults. Simple question, yes or no?
Yes, of course it will.
Okay, there we go.
This news reporter that grilled this politician, amazing work by them to just straight up get the answer that we needed to hear. But pretty much this is what the politicians are doing. They are using the words of, or optics of, protect the kids, think of the kids, and they're using that to be able to pass these laws to just straight up rip the rights and restrict adults and people in countries, and just to censor everything. And it's very clear the tactics of this, it's just very shady, it's malicious, and I want to point something out. These are the same governments, like for instance UK, they're actively protecting a PDF ring, or gangs. They're actively protecting that or shutting down investigations of that, or that's not even talking about the United States with the whole Epstein list and files, okay? We have some shady stuff going on with that, and we have bills and trying to get passed like this. It's very clear there's a lot of deflection, there's a lot of censorship, and it's very sus. I'm just gonna be blunt. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but it's very, very sus. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself. The point of the matter is that the Screen Act obviously is unacceptable. It is in the exact same vein as the Kids Online Safety Act that obviously is trying to restrict freedoms. It's trying to basically surveil everybody, know what you're doing at a given time, get your ID and everything, which also is very important to talk about because of the whole T-app leak that happened recently. I've been meaning to talk about this, but I can finally squeeze this into the conversation. But I think everybody that's been online has probably seen what's been going on with the T-app. The T-app was basically a bunch of disgruntled women that were very upset with men and basically doxing guys and saying really awful things about guys on this app. And then eventually someone got in and posted all the IDs, posted all the private, chats and everything on the T-app to the public to see. Now, regardless of however you feel about what happened to the individuals involved, the point is this showcases complete security risks. This shows risk to your ID being on certain platforms or apps. For instance, the T-app required you to use an ID to verify if you were a woman or not going onto the app. So the point is that you got to imagine these laws that are trying to get passed, like the Kids Online Safety Act to the Screen Act, you're going to have to give up your ID to these different sites. And these different sites are obviously going to vary in terms of protection, or how they encrypt your data, or how they hold on to your ID or whatever. And obviously there's going to be probably many sites, many apps that do the exact same thing that the T-app did. And so there is a lot of danger here. Even if you want to disregard the restriction of freedom itself and trying to censor people, the danger of a platform accidentally releasing your identification for everyone to see is absolutely a horrible thing to think about. So yeah, just the advice here I'm going to give everyone is the same I gave a few days ago. Call your local representative, call your local senator, tell them, do not let this pass, you don't like this, just basically shoot it down. It should not exist. You do not agree with it. The same thing can be said for the Kids Online Safety Act. Do the exact same thing. Call your local representative. And I want to point something out, that this one is obviously pushed by 2 Republicans, but this one that's also basically the exact same thing, which is a newer bill, is also being co-sponsored by Republicans and Democrats that a lot of people apparently don't understand. Now, with all this being talked about, we can segue into other content, which is of a brighter nature. Visa and MasterCard are getting overwhelmed by gamer fury over censorship. Gamers are sending mass emails and phone calls to major payment processors in protest over Steam and itch.io. Most likely, one big driving force to this is probably 4chan that initiated Operation Fight Fire with Fire. They pretty much collectively got all the numbers and email addresses of Visa, MasterCard, other payment processors, and even Collective Shout to pretty much just call them and email them and let them know we do not like censorship. We do not like our games being taken from us. We don't like these sites being shut down. We don't like, freedom of expression being under attack. We don't like the cartel/mafia nature of payment processors. You just have 4chan collectively coming in and talking about the situation and spamming their phone services or emails. And I feel like a lot of people are probably doing the exact same thing that might not even be affiliated with 4chan. And the reason for that is because this censorship issue has expanded so far, in fact, that you have people from all sides around the internet, people that have actively contributed to the current state of the gaming industry, like for instance trying to get female characters censored or stop being sexualized, have actively pitched in and tried to say enough is enough, stop censoring things. Now, regardless if you want to label them a hypocrite or not, obviously it'd be very easy to do so. the big point here is that you can see collectively the internet from all sides is getting affected by this. A lot of people are rallying and trying to fight a common enemy, which is obviously, once again, these activist groups, these payment processors, and the governments of these different countries. And this is all happening in such rapid succession, back to back. It's obviously there's something going on here. I mean, once again, you could call me a conspiracy theorist, but you have to admit, it's very shady, just so much happening at once. It's not normal. It's not. It's not normal having all these different sites, all these different businesses, all these different governments trying to initiate pretty much very similar things back to back. It's worrisome. It's scary. So there's an understandable reason to why there is such a backlash, why there's so much outcry about censorship and these payment processors. Like, I feel like Visa and MasterCard truly underestimated what they were doing. Because what this is going to cause, if gamers and anime fans and other individuals around the internet rally together, the collective voice is going to get so loud that it might get these different governments to be like, oh crap, back off, but also potentially break up, Visa and MasterCard with antitrust law because they have a monopoly. I mean, as I've talked about in my previous video yesterday, Visa owns 80%, okay, of the market for payment processes like cash flow, okay? So imagine 80% of the world is required to use Visa. That obviously is a monopoly that needs to be cut up and broken apart. So this might bring in the monopoly into question and allow like the general populace to find out about this and become a big issue for Visa and MasterCard. Hopefully something like that does happen. However, with all this being said, this is really the only good news that I really have for this video, because now we're about to get into some pretty dark stuff. First off, we have YouTube will identify and restrict minors' accounts with AI. Okay. I don't think I need to explain why this is bad, because obviously in a perfect world this makes sense and this would be great. But the reason why this is bad is because anyone that's been on YouTube long enough knows, especially as a content creator, knows that YouTube's automated bot system with its AI just doesn't work. It doesn't. You'll have videos falsely flagged for like copyright issues or content ID, taken down for, monetization reasons or whatever. There is always been issues with, automating these systems on YouTube's platform. And the fact that they're automating the actual platform to identify if someone's a minor or not because of whatever content they're watching, if the account flags, like if they're, potentially a minor watching content on YouTube, is pretty concerning, because for a fact there's going to be actual adults, even massive content creators, that's going to be hit by this. They're going to be hit by this AI that is going to potentially shut down their entire channel just randomly because of this introduction to this AI that's to restrict minors from accessing the YouTube platform. But I also have to question, isn't there a whole segment called YouTube Kids? There is a whole segment called YouTube Kids. Is that... Why do we have that then? Why do we have COPA? If we got this now. And I want to put this, out there. This is happening thanks to the UK stuff. Like, for instance, the Online Safety Act that UK passed. And so, you have people now around the world getting affected by another country's laws. You see how bad this is? It's getting worse. And once again, I brought up that Australia is going to be passing a similar law very soon. Europe as well. The United States is trying to pass one, as I talked about at the beginning of the video, with the different bills. So this is just dark times, man. It's insane how this just keeps getting worse and worse. But let's get into the next part, which is this part right here. So this is the Online Safety Act. This is what is outlined as is no longer allowed. Now, at first glance, this seems a-okay. It makes sense why they would want to restrict this and not allow stuff like this to happen, this activity on platforms and stuff. It makes perfect sense. However, we got to look at the optics of this once again. Just as how they use the whole line of think of the children or protect the kids, the optics here obviously is going to affect discussion and also fictional content. We've already seen fictional content on social media sites getting censored thanks to the UK law. Europe is getting affected by it, okay? And that's not including payment processors. So this means that any discussion of these topics, even in a actual negative light trying to put this stuff down, potentially will get censored. But then we got to get into the other fact with gaming. Obviously, with how draconic everything is getting with this law, it's very, very likely that games like GTA will not be able to exist, because obviously GTA has a lot of this type of stuff within it. So when you factor that in, games are going to get heavily censored. Like, just simple games that have like anything negative or dark within them are not going to be allowed to exist with this law that UK obviously has in effect now. So yeah, it's not good. Like, you can see the issue here. Now, we got to go a little bit further. We also got to talk about this situation, which is kind of, like, off topic, but it kind of showcases how crazy the world is getting. So, to kind of give a brief summary here, the Third World Popular Party in Japan, Sanseto, has drafted a constitution that would restore power to the emperor, replace individual rights with national duties, and restrict foreigners from long-term residency, land ownership, and welfare. Now, I want to point something out. It is the third most popular party, so obviously they are not the strongest party in terms of political weight. But Japan even introducing something like this showcases that the world is becoming crazy, okay? Like, I don't know how many people have, like, know their history or not, but if you know anything about, let's say, World War II, for instance, and, you know, imperialistic Japan and the emperor and everything, you're gonna know this is like Pandora's box waiting to happen, if this indeed happens. And even if this doesn't pass and goes nowhere, the fact that it's even being brought up for discussion just goes to show the current state of the world. Like, I saw Asmongold mention this, and I think this is very relevant. Thanks to just how much censorship these governments are trying to do and how they're forcing just like their will upon the people and trying to restrict everyone, there is going to be a dictator that's going to rise to power. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but there 100% will be. I'm saying the exact same thing that Asmongold has talked about, and it's definitely going to happen sooner than later, because you can only push people so far to a certain degree to where they eventually backlash. There's massive backlash, and they retaliate. Eventually, there's going to be a dictator that's going to rise and get into power, and it's going to be horrifying. It's going to be terrible, because it's going to be a direct counter to everything that's currently going on, which is also not good. But when a pendulum swings left or right, it's going to hard correct itself the other direction because of everything going on, and I feel like we're at the precipice of that. There is so many governments and so many different things going around the world that's leading to that outcome that, as I've said, is terrifying. There's just, this issue has gotten so crazy. This censorship issue, to what's been going on with Collective Shout and gaming communities, to different governments, it's bad, man. The only thing that you can take away from this that is a good thing is that the internet is rallying together. I have literally seen people that legit don't like me, by the way, that actually hate me. You can even see them commenting about me, that are even calling me Hitler, by the way, that are happy I'm talking about this, that I'm speaking out about what is going on. So it showcases just how many people are rallying behind this. Like, these are the same individuals that call me basically a PDF or Hitler. And by the way, this person made this, this person made this meme to that. This is so funny. Like, I love this meme, dude. It's just, alright, but, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, all I'm gonna say, at least if you're a United States resident, I recommend, obviously, calling your local representative or senator. If you're in the UK, I'm going to be honest with you, I would just try to share that video, of your politician pretty much admitting and saying the, you know, the quiet part out loud, mask off, that they're trying to monitor you and become a police state. I would, definitely share this around. I think this is very important, but with how everything's going and how YouTube is about to be restricted as well, it's only a matter of time until maybe UK is not even able to see this video. So, yeah, we got something like that to, you know, potentially happen soon. I'll leave it at that, though. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, leave a like. Chibi out.